Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here. I'm the committee chair, Ashley Adams, and I hereby call this meeting to order. As a reminder, the Committee for Mathematics Achievement was created legislatively under KRS 158.842 for the purposes of developing a multifaceted strategic plan to improve student achievement in mathematics at all levels of schooling, pre-kindergarten through post-secondary and adult. This meeting must comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, and accordingly, CMA members must ensure that their video is streaming and can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. Members and guests, please remember to mute your microphone when not talking. However, all discussions must be broadcast to the public. Therefore, be sure your microphone is not muted when you speak. Every time you speak during the meeting, please unmute your microphone, state your name, take a short pause to give the software time to recognize you. For any roll call vote, it will be necessary to record the vote for each committee member, which at that time, the member should state his or her name, pause, and then state I vote yes or I vote no. At this time, we will have a roll call. So, Chris, you can go ahead.
Thank you. In order to document attendance of everyone present today, the names will be announced according to how they're listed in KRS 158.842. When I call your name, I will also include the role which you've been assigned as provided in statute. When your name and role has been called, please state your name for the record and announce that you are present. To begin, I am serving as the committee secretary, and I will announce that for the record, I, Chris Jarboe, am present. The Commissioner of Education or his or her designee, Crystal Rowland.
I, Crystal Rowland, am present.
The President of the Council on Post-Secondary Education or his or her designee, Amanda Ellis. The President of the Association of Independent Kentucky Colleges and Universities or his or her designee, Mason Dyer. The Secretary of Education and Labor Cabinet or his or her designee, Jamie Link. The following are representatives with a specialty in mathematics or mathematics education who have expertise and experience in professional development, especially with coaching and mentoring of teachers from any of the 9 public post-secondary education institutes defined in KRS 164001. Funda Gunalates.
I, Funda Gunalates, present.
Jamie Marie Miller.
I, Jamie Marie Miller, present.
Jason Taylor.
I, Jason Taylor, am present.
Ed Tommy.
I, Ed Tommy, am present.
One adult education mathematics instructor, Zach Gibbons.
I, Zach Gibbons, am present.
2 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high school mathematics teachers. Ashley Adams.
I, Ashley Adams, am present.
Amy Leeskang. Alvia Littleton. Natalie Rashad. Joanna Stevens. Jeannie Jones.
Jeannie Jones here.
3 school administrators or building level mathematics instructional coaches with 1 each representing elementary, middle, and high school. Chris Barwell. Donna Froge.
I, Donna Froge, am present.
Michael Phillips.
I, Michael Phillips, am present.
2 district administrators or district level mathematics instructional coaches. Melissa Biggerstaff.
Melissa Biggerstaff, present.
Stacy Justice.
I, Stacy Justice, present.
The executive director for the Center for Mathematics or his or her designee, Kelly DeLong.
I, Kelly DeLong, present.
The executive director of Advanced Kentucky or his or her designee, Anthony Myers.
I, Anthony Myers, present.
The Executive Director of the Partnership Institute for Math and Science Education Reform, or his or her designee, Kim Zeidler Waters.
I, Kim Zeidler Waters, present.
Okay. Thank you.
The minutes from July's meeting were shared prior to today's meeting, and we can drop a link. Sorry, my mic went off. And we can drop a link in the chat. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I, Funda Gönül Ateş, make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I, Stacy Justice, second.
We will continue with a roll call vote.
Crystal Rowland,
Crystal Rowland, yes.
Amanda Ellis, Mason Dyer, Jamie Link, Funda Gönül Ateş,
Funda Gönül Ateş, yes.
Jamie Marie Miller,
Jamie Marie Miller, yes.
Jason Taylor,
Jason Taylor, yes.
Ed Tommy,
Ed Tommy, yes.
Zach Gibbons,
Zach Gibbons, yes.
Ashley Adams,
Ashley Adams, yes.
Amy Leesgang, Alvia Littleton, Natalie Rashad, Jeannie Jones,
Jeannie Jones, yes.
Chris Barwell, Donna Froge,
Donna Froge, yes.
Michael Phillips,
Michael Phillips, yes.
Melissa Biggerstaff,
Melissa Biggerstaff, yes.
Stacy Justice,
Stacy Justice, yes.
Kelly DeLong,
Kelly DeLong, yes.
Anthony Myers,
Anthony Myers, yes.
and Kim Zeidler Waters.
Kim Zeidler Waters, yes.
The agenda was also shared prior. Sorry, I got bumped off there and back. So prior to tonight, the agenda was shared, and a link can be dropped in the chat. I will entertain a motion now to approve the agenda.
I, Michael
Melissa
Phillips,
Biggerstaff,
motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Melissa Biggerstaff, a second.
We will now continue with a roll call vote.
Crystal Rowland,
Crystal Rowland, yes.
Funda Gönül Ateş,
Funda Gönül Ateş, yes.
Jamie Marie Miller,
Jamie Marie Miller, yes.
Jason Taylor,
Jason Taylor, yes.
Ed Tommy,
Ed Tommy, yes.
Zach Gibbons,
Zach Gibbons, yes.
Ashley Adams,
Ashley Adams, yes.
Jeannie Jones, Donna Froge,
Donna Froge, yes.
Michael Phillips,
I, Michael Phillips, yes.
Melissa Biggerstaff,
Melissa Biggerstaff, yes.
Stacy Justice,
Stacy Justice, yes.
Kelly DeLong,
Kelly DeLong, yes.
Anthony Myers,
Anthony Myers, yes.
Kim Ziegler Waters.
Kim Sidler Waters, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will have Jennifer Fraley and some important KDE updates.
Thank you very much. Chris, are you going to advance my slides for me? Okay, I'll let you go ahead and get that started. First of all, I think I know everyone, but just in case, I'm Jennifer Fraley. I am the Director of Math Education for the Kentucky Department of Education. Some of you are probably like, oh no, I have to hear her again, because we have been in some shared spaces. But what I'd like to do is just briefly share with you some updates around the Kentucky Numeracy Counts Act, kind of give you some information about where we are with certain big initiatives related to that act, and then leave you with some resources so that if you have additional questions, then you can go there. But of course, I will be sharing my email address, and you can always just reach out to me if you have a question that I can answer for you. So with the next slide, we'll kind of look over those of you who have been working in schools. You will see that House Bill 162, which was passed in the last legislative session and then was named the Kentucky Numeracy Counts Act, kind of parallels the work of early literacy. But something that I think is very important to point out is that second bullet is that the legislature and the department were very clear in their language around what we believe that all students should receive in terms of numeracy teaching and learning, and that is that making sure that our students have the skills to demonstrate that procedural fluency that then builds from that conceptual understanding in order to solve real world problems. So we're really making sure, I call this number sense, really making sure that our students understand those mathematical practices that they are using and not just memorizing algorithms and formulas, so that they really truly understand what the math means, because that builds on itself year after year. So the next slide will kind of show you that as I'm out talking to schools and districts, the first things we want to make sure that they know is really what is numeracy. And there are several little intricacies there that we're trying to make sure that we incorporate in our professional learning. And that is not just that mathematical ability, but also the confidence to be able to understand and reason and apply those mathematical concepts. A lot of times, and you all are, it's like preaching to the choir to talk to this group, to say that a lot of times math gets a bad rap. A lot of times students will say, I'm not a math person, or when we're talking to their parents, they'll say, I can't help them at home because I'm not a math person, because they do not have those dispositions or that mathematic identity. So we're really making sure that as we roll out our academies, that we are really working to improve those mathematical dispositions and the confidence that our students have and also our teachers have, because a lot of times when we're working with elementary teachers, they can lean more heavily on their strength areas, and that might be literacy, and then they don't feel as comfortable or confident with their math instructional practices and pedagogy. So we're really making sure that we are not only improving the confidence and the dispositions of our students, but our teachers as well. And so the next slide kind of gets into the critical bucket items that I think K-12 schools are most interested in right now as we're thinking about the Kentucky Numeracy Counts Act. And so there were kind of 3 big action items. And again, this will sound very similar to things that were rolled out with early literacy. One is that we will publish a list of approved Numeracy Universal Screeners and Diagnostics. So, you know, a screener is an assessment that is administered about 3 times a year, kind of beginning of year, middle of year, end of year, kind of throws up a flag if a student is struggling in a particular area. And then we have diagnostics that we use to dig deeper into those problem areas to really identify what those students' learning needs are, and then to be able to provide those interventions. We also are charged with rolling out academies. We have several of those academies either in the planning stages or actually operating. Anthony Myers is with us, and Advanced Kentucky's Access to Algebra is one of those academy providers. And I know that they're having a lot of success with districts choosing to be a part of that to bring down Algebra 1 content into the middle school. So also we have the Epic Numeracy Alliance. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of those in a second, but PIMSR and KCM are also identified as providers for those math academies. And then another area of work is our HQIR grants, and I'm going to be able to in just a second to give you an update on timelines around that. So the next slide kind of talks about a couple of cross-agency items. I had an opportunity last week to talk to the Educational Professional Standards Board because there are some action items in House Bill 162 that require some collaboration among those agencies that are working with educator preparation programs. So they are charged with identifying an assessment that really measures an elementary teacher's mathematical knowledge. So one of the things that group is looking at is the Praxis. We currently use the Praxis 5000 series for elementary. Praxis ATS has released a new series of assessments, the Praxis 7000. That group is there is a work group established with EPSB. They are reviewing those two assessments to determine which of those best meet the intent of our legislation. And then also EPSB is charged with identifying a rubric or rubrics that can be used to provide math specific feedback to those teachers in the EPP program, so those pre-service teachers. So that group has, I am working with that work group, and it is a large task. We are looking across different observational rubrics that KDE has, but we're also looking at other observational rubrics that our institutions have used or have experience with, and then we're kind of doing an analysis of those to determine which provide good feedback around knowledge of standards, which provide good feedback around knowledge of pedagogical practices, which of those meet the intent of the legislation, and then which of those can be used easily within our existing system. So that group has a large task, and we are working through those different rubrics that have been brought forward from that work group. So the next slide is probably the thing that folks are most interested in, and those are timelines around those 3 big buckets of work. So on November 1st, which is coming up, we will open up the submission window for those assessment vendors to submit their universal screener and diagnostics for review. KDE will review those for reliability, validity, and classification accuracy. And a published list of approved screeners will be made available in February. That gives districts a little bit of a cushion to be able to review those, to determine what works with their current system, which ones they are most interested in, and then to make an adoption of at least 1 universal screener and 1 diagnostic in the 2026-2027 school year. We do know, and districts are happy to hear this, that when iReady and NWEA MapGrowth submitted their materials for literacy for that screening and diagnostic list, they also submitted their math materials, and those were reviewed. And so we know that districts that are using iReady and MAP, that if they are satisfied with those assessments, that those will appear on that approved list. So, if districts think they might want to make a change, then they're more than welcome to do that. But those two assessments that are most widely used across our state, iReady and MAP, will be on that approved list. As I said, we have our professional learning academies. So Epic Numeracy Alliance is up and going. That's about 200 educators across the state in grades 3 through 5 for one professional learning module and 6 through 8 for a second professional learning module. I'm actually participating in both because I wanted to kind of see what this program is like. They are actually doing an action research pilot of Carnegie Learning's program called Patterns. So it really focuses on that mathematical idea that patterns run throughout our standards. And so helping teachers to make sense out of that, but giving teachers some help around both content standards and pedagogy in terms of professional practice. So I am participating in that. It is up and going. I think they still have a couple of seats. If someone wanted to jump on, there may be an opportunity for that to happen. So if you are interested, you can reach out to me, or this PowerPoint has a direct link to their information. Anthony, of course, is on our CMA committee, and Advanced Kentucky's Access to Algebra. The interest in that program has been phenomenal, because as schools and districts have tried in the past to implement algebra in the middle school level, if they have done that without the support of Advanced Kentucky, they have realized that they really need that additional support around how do we organize our standards so that we're teaching 6th, 7th, 8th grade now pull down Algebra 1 standards, that we're doing that in a cohesive way, that we have those teaming structures in place, and we have that additional support so that we are really building systems for that work and not trying to do it in isolation and really struggling with that. I have been in a district myself that struggled to do it by themselves, and they are now reaching out to Access to Algebra for that extra help. And then also, Kelly is on the call and Kim is on the call, and they were both identified in the legislation as being being an academy provider. So KCM is well in the throes of bringing together a team of practitioners to identify a 2-year professional learning academy. Year 1 will bring on 1,000 teachers. Year 2 will bring on another 1,000 teachers to really engage them in depth in that conceptual understanding of mathematics across all domains. So, and then Kim is kind of paralleling that work in a very smart move to say, what is it that teachers are learning in the Teacher Academy? And then what is it that leaders need to know in order to be able to support that within their school and district? So Kim will be providing a professional learning academy for building level administrators to support them in creating those structures and those routines and those schedules, but also their own mathematical knowledge, so that when they go into a classroom, they can recognize when math instruction is aligned to standards, and they're also able to engage teachers in actionable feedback that improves outcomes for students. So those academies, registration will start for those in April, and then they will roll out in June and July. We believe that the administrator sessions will begin in June, and the teacher sessions will begin in July. What is great about that is there will be a face-to-face launch for the teacher session, and then those will be synchronous and asynchronous virtual sessions throughout the school year. So we won't be pulling those folks out for learning sessions. We will try to engage them in a lot of innovative practices like podcasting and badging and things like that, so that they are they're learning in a fun, in a vibrant way, but we're not really requiring them to come out of their classroom. And then Kim will be doing similar things. Principals have a little more flexibility to attend face-to-face, but giving them those digital resources that they need and digital opportunities to communicate with each other. And then lastly, the HQIR grants. We know a lot of our schools and districts purchased HQIR materials with ESSER funds. So they maybe are not in need of resources. So this grant will also support schools and districts in providing curriculum-based professional learning. So if a district has already purchased their materials, we know that it takes 2 to 3 years just for an initial implementation, and that professional learning is a large part of that. And a lot of times our professional learning dollars don't go as far as we would like them to go. So this gives us an opportunity for districts to apply for a grant to be able to either support the purchase of materials or the purchase of curriculum-based professional learning. We anticipate that RFA would be posted after the first of the year, and sometime in the spring, those grants would be awarded. That's just a rough timeline. This PowerPoint has the links to House Bill 162, also an implementation timeline for House Bill 162 that kind of breaks it down into what do I have to know and when do I have to know it by, and then also a link to the Kentucky Numeracy Council webpage where you will be able to find updated information when registration for different academies begin, when other learning opportunities arise. You will be able to find that information there. But what I hope that you see from just this brief introduction is that the legislature is putting funds behind math-specific professional learning and math-specific strategies for our students to have improved outcomes. And that is exactly what we are attempting to do with our CMA strategic plan. And a lot of times we have been able to link the work of numeracy counts to specific strategies in the CMA strategic plan. So I wanted you, when you are looking over the plan and you see things about KYNC, that you know where that is coming from. Know that this was legislation for 2 years, but it has been identified as a legislative priority moving forward as well. So also, the next slide has my email address. So if you have particular questions that you are not finding an answer to right off the bat, don't struggle, just send me an email and I would be happy to connect with you. Phew. Okay. I wanted to be fast because I know you all have a big meeting and I don't want to take up too much time, but there's a quick update on Kentucky Numeracy Counts.
Thank you very much. All right, so now we are going to get into looking at like a summary of our draft process and what we've went through. So first, I just want to say how proud I am of the work that we've done and grateful I am to be a small part of it, and want to thank all of the members of the subcommittee who took time out of their work days to work on this, and evenings and weekends. So before we get into the process, I just want to stress that all of the subcommittee's work, we took your feedback, and that was like our driving force for our conversations and ideas and everything that we looked at. Also, if you hopefully had a chance to look at the draft, you saw that students were the focus of this strategic plan, where I feel like maybe in our previous plan that wasn't as obvious. So I feel like that's one of the biggest gains that we have with our draft that we've come up with. And there was just so much collaboration, and even though we did a lot of work asynchronously, nothing was done in isolation. We worked together and talked to each other a lot, and our subcommittee was just made up of the right amount of people and the right people. It was a very good mix of all people P20, and so I think that it all came together really well. So our process, our first in-person meeting, and we did have people who weren't able to be there but could meet us online. We identified the key priorities for the Kentucky Mathematics Strategic Plan that we were looking for. We determined the key features in our architecture for our new plan, what we wanted it to look like, and then we established working goals for drafting the plan. Then we worked on our own with partners, and then we came together for a second meeting, and we refined our key priorities and actions. We made sure to connect research. Sorry, I dropped the call there. To connect research and evidence-based practices to our key priorities, And hopefully, and we started working on a vision statement, and tonight we will continue that work together as a group. So one of the things that we did was we looked at all the other plans. We had looked at those in our meetings together and talked about how we wanted to structure our strategic plan. We looked at, did we want it to be needs or pillars? That was some of the one. Needs is what we had before. Pillars was one that we saw in another plan that we liked, and goals. But we decided, because this is a fluid plan, it can be revised as needed, that we felt like priorities was a good way to organize that. These are our priorities now. Our priorities may change, and we can revise that and come together as a group to do that. And we also looked at what were going to be the contents of the plan. So we had to make sure that our plan does address the components of the KRS. We wanted to make sure that it aligned with research and evidence. And we wanted, again, the focus to be on Kentucky students and our other stakeholders. So, like I said, you can see there, we had dedicated our review to your all's feedback that you gave us. So when we came together on that first day, we went through the feedback. We made notes individually by ourselves of what we thought was like a common theme among the feedback, what were the things that stood out to us, and then we talked in groups about what did we see, and then as a whole group. And so from there, we discovered what were some common themes among everyone and their feedback. And then we discussed, and then we said, okay, this is a lot. So how can we cluster these things together and name our themes? And that's where we came up with our key priorities from that. We also looked at our other state plans that we'd been looking at and our requirements and said, okay, how do these priorities and these common themes that we're looking at, how do they fit in? Is there anything that we're missing from these other state plans? Is there anything in the KRS that we're missing? And we added that in. And so we kind of took those things and we put up the big white paper and went through and said, okay, what was the most important things that we got from that? And we went through and we took our Post-it notes that we had made notes on, and went from there to decide what was going to be those things that we wanted to focus on and build our plan around. And so then from there, we looked at, so were there any things that needed to be changed? We came together at the end of the day, items that should be recategorized, and should we take this off of this and put it on this list? And was there any additional things that we thought we should be added based on our research and the law? So that's kind of how our first day went. It was a lot of work, but it was great work, and we had lots of great conversation. And so from there, we took those key priorities that we came up with, and we decided who was going to partner up to work on the work that went into what we wanted, the narrative and the goals and actions and all of that kind of stuff to go into that. So this is what we came up with, these 6 priorities, and we put them in this order on purpose. So it's not just like where they fell. Like, we felt like the key priority for the first one was student empowerment. We wanted students to be the focus of this plan. And so we felt like that was their first key priority. We want all students in the state of Kentucky to feel like they're a math student, like they can do math and they are a mathematician. And so that's where we focused our first priority. And then from there, looking at effective mathematics teaching and learning, what were things that we felt like needed to be happening in the classroom with our teachers? What goals did we have for our teachers? Support do we need to give them? And then looking at continuous educator development and growth, we said, okay, we're going from the students to the teacher. And so now we can't just leave our teacher once they become a teacher and then have no support. And so we felt like this also encompassed like our administrators and other people in our building, that we would all grow together. And then our next priority was a continuum of learning. And so that's where we really focused on looking at the student P20, okay, and making sure that we had everybody involved in the student's journey. And then from there, we have to branch out. So we have our community and family partnerships was another key priority. And then last, we know that one of our main priorities that we have in the state of Kentucky is to go out and find more teachers and keep the teachers that we have in the building. And so teacher recruitment and retention is our last priority that we decided on. And so we came up with, we really wanted to have some good digital things there to go along with what we were looking at, color code it. And so you can see there, this is in the first part of our document. And it says with the student empowerment. So this is kind of just the main idea from each one of those is to empower students to envision and realize their mathematical potential. And key priority 2 was to support effective mathematics teaching to increase student learning and utilize balanced assessments. And then on 3, increase math-specific professional learning for teachers and administrators to advance professional practice and student outcomes. Key priority 4, provide a continuum of learning across the student's education journey from P20 to ensure successful attainment of mathematical skills. And I feel like our subcommittee really had a good representation of P20. Okay, and then key priority 5, to empower families and community partners as critical agents in supporting student achievement in mathematics. And then lastly, to recruit, hire, and retain support effective mathematics teachers to build a growing and vibrant teaching community. So that's where we were at. And then from there, once we broke up into groups to look at each key priority, we went through and decided what were some goals and actions that we wanted to go with each priority. So we tried to keep it to 2 to 3 goals per priority, and we wanted to prioritize the most important outcomes so that it did encompass P20. So every time that we looked at something, we said, okay, are we only talking about K-12 here? So what do we need to make sure that when we are writing these goals that it does include everyone? We want them to be measurable and something that we can actually do, aligned with evidence-based research, and then have actions that could support that goal. Is there things that people can do to support that goal? And so then we wanted to ensure complete alignment between our goals and our actions. And so we did a lot of revision to do that. We had multiple recommended actions that can be included for each goal, so there's not just one action per goal. And then again, action should support P20 in achieving the goal. We always wanted to keep that as a focus as we went through that. So again, like I said, we got with our partners on day 1 at the end of day 1, and we worked asynchronously together on our writing the narrative that went along with our what did our priority mean, and then what were our goals and our actions, and then what were some considerations and resources. All right, and so then we looked at together when we came back, on that second day, like, did our goals reflect those outcomes? Do the actions support the achievement of the goals in the P20 space? And would these goals and actions support the key priority in making significant improvement in mathematics achievement? And we revised and refined. So we did that a lot on the second day. We went around, each group went around and looked at each other's priorities and made some different ideas for the goals and actions on how to help each other refine that and make that what we wanted it to be. We also did that with our narrative reviews. So we wrote a narrative that went along with each priority, if you looked at that in the plan. And so again, we wanted to see, does this narrative support the importance of identified goals or effectiveness of recommended actions? with citations of current credible evidence-based research. So we wanted to make sure that we had current research that was relevant to what we were looking at, and then what sources might be helpful in building a strong case for the goals and actions included in the plan. And that's something that's not, you don't see on the plan yet, but we are still working on those considerations and resources. So again, we looked at, would these goals and actions support the key priority in making significant improvement in mathematics achievement? And then refined our narrative to utilize the evidence-based research to make a case that we needed these goals and these actions, and that it was a priority in Kentucky. So hopefully you got to have a chance to look at the plan before tonight. And so we really just want to open this up, and I invite the other subcommittee members that if you want to answer a specific question, if it's about a priority that you worked on, please feel free to do that. So these were some of the questions that were sent out. Do the goals represent the most important achievable outcomes under each key priority? Will the included actions make meaningful progress toward achieving our goals? And what considerations or resources do you feel would be the most helpful for shareholders in acting on the plan? So hopefully, again, like I said, you got a chance to look at it, or you can pull it up right now to look at it. So I'm just going to open this up to have any questions or comments that anybody would like to make. Or if anybody in the subcommittee would like to add anything.
Ashley, I would like to add something. Kelly DeLong, Executive Director, Kentucky Center for Mathematics. I wanted to just let you know what a beautiful process this was to be on this subcommittee. I felt like the team from KDE really developed a nice flow for the material, for the information, but I really enjoyed the time with my team in the subcommittee and feel very confident in those that were on the other teams working with that. I think that the flow of the priorities, starting with the students and then ending with the dedication with regards to, we believe that teachers, that we have to focus on our teachers and keeping recruitment and retention there. I felt like that was a beautiful flow. So I just wanted to let this committee know that, you know, as I've been in education a really long time. And so this was one of my favorite kind of iterations. And I think the visual aspect of it is really coming together. It doesn't feel like a piece of paper with a staple in the corner. It feels like a document. And I just think that I have a lot of confidence that we are focusing on some things that are achievable.
Ashley, I would add to what Kelly shared. I think the subcommittee did a fantastic job of really imagining what this plan could look like to engage multiple shareholders. And so the iconography that you see is from the subcommittee coming together to say we want something that's visually engaging, but also helps in the readability of the plan. And I think that the subcommittee did a fantastic job of thinking about what does research say moves the needle for students. So we know that we can't do everything, but we can choose goals to focus in on 2 or 3 to make movement in a positive direction, understanding that the committee can come back together, look for indicators to measure movement towards attainment of those goals, and reconsider adapting those goals as the plan progresses through time. So I think that they did a fantastic job of bringing those pieces together.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. And would anybody else like to share anything?
This is Kim Zeidler Waters from PIMSR. I'm looking at the 3rd bullet there, what considerations or resources, and looking at the plan, and I didn't get through the entire thing. I got through most of it. is there going to be, there are some words in there that could be misinterpreted or interpreted differently by different shareholders. So is there going to be some sort of guidance at the back, like for balanced assessment? What do we mean by that? Maybe what's the research we're pulling from around balanced assessment to keep everyone on the same page? Or tier 1 was used at the beginning of the document. So how do we all define what that really means and what that means for an effective classroom? So I'm just curious about some of those things that may pose
Yes, so
questions.
we had discussed that we would add a glossary at the end of the plan that would define all of those types of things. I'm not sure where we're at on that, but we did discuss that is something that is needed.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. We do want to be clear about what we mean. And so we're kind of balancing what fits in the plan itself on the page and what could we kind of define in the glossary, knowing that words may be used differently in the K-12 space than they are in the post-secondary space as well.
Any other questions or just comments, thoughts on the architecture or the actions?
I'll just piggyback on what Kelly said also. You can tell there was a lot of thought and time put into this plan. So I was not part of that initial work, but I can certainly see it on the paper, the amount of conversation and work that went into this. So I appreciate that. And I agree with Kelly, the readability of the plan. It's not difficult to read. There's not tons of words on a sheet of paper that makes it seem daunting. It actually seems like a usable document that someone could use as a shareholder in acting on the plan.
We had a lot of conversation also about communication, that once we have this plan set in place of how we would ensure that this was available and everyone knew about this plan, all stakeholders would know where it is, how to find it, if they have questions, anything like that. So we know that also communication is going to be very important once we pass this plan to make sure everybody has access to it.
I'll point out as well, so on page 6 of the draft, there's also the strategic plan audience and purpose. And so that goes back into KRS 158.842, section 11, that talks about the CMA being able to periodically review the plan and make adjustments. And so as the subcommittee was looking at goals, they were thinking about, do we have data streams in Kentucky that would help us to sort of measure things around teacher recruitment and retention? So as a committee, we can sort of look at, are these things making a difference? Do we want to go back and make some changes or revise some of our goals along the way?
I'm going to go and jump in with just an observation that I just caught. I was on the subcommittee, and I admit I probably should have caught this before now, but I think this is final read through. And we may agree that it's implied and not an issue, but we expect students to have a growth mindset, but we don't identify a growth mindset for other people involved in this as teachers, administrators. Just putting that out there. I don't know if that's an issue or not.
I agree. That's definitely something that we need to think about with this, that we have our focus on the students and their growth mind. We want them to have a growth mindset, but we also need our teachers and our leaders and all of our parents to have that same mindset. So that is something I do feel like is important there.
Well, yeah, I want to say, I was just going to say, I think the whole document embodies growth mindset, certainly. It's just if we're going to go to the point of calling it out, we might want to call it out for ourselves. But that was just.
Well, and Anthony, that section reminded me, it said moving kids from a fixed to a growth mindset. But when you really read the research on that, kids could have a fixed mindset about some topics or concepts they're learning in math when they initially start that. They could start with, this is hard, and start with a fixed mindset that could be turned around into a growth mindset. So depending on the topic, they go in and out of this fixed mindset versus growth mindset mentality. I think one of the things to consider is, what is our messaging with kids that if you want to get better at something, what do you have to do to get better at something? And letting them in on that idea that it takes time. You don't get good at something immediately. Like after a 30-minute lesson, don't expect to perfect it after that. It takes input from both the teacher, from colleague, from your classmates, from the textbook, whatever it is, you get input. You have to put in practice and you have to put in effort. You have to be part of it and a partnership with your teacher and the students in your classroom in order to really learn and have a growth mindset. So I don't know how we deal with that in there. That language sometimes can get interesting. So that's just some things to consider when finalizing it.
I'll say as well, so in KRS 158.842, we do want the plan to address attitudes and beliefs of teachers about mathematics. And so I think that needs to kind of pull into the space as well. So I feel like that would fit under the educator development and growth, perhaps, might be a good fit for that one. And some of these things I think would reach across key priorities as well.
Any other questions or thoughts? Chris, is there a way that if, after the meeting, we've discussed it, that somebody has some ideas then that they want, like, hey, I wish I'd thought of this and I want to share, that there will be a way they will be able to do that?
Yes, that's, we have a little exit survey with these questions and some more questions on the vision statement. So thinking that maybe after you think things through, you might have some more to add about it. So, yeah.
All right, so another piece that we wanted to discuss with the full CMA tonight and get some feedback back on is around the vision statement. And so with the subcommittee, we reviewed, really focused on what is a vision. So it's a public declaration of what an educational organization hopes to achieve if they successfully fulfill their mission. So as a CMA, what is it that we hope to accomplish for mathematics? So we looked at criteria for vision statements, and this is from the National Institute for Instructional Leadership in 2017. We wanted to know, is it achievable, doable? What is that next bite that we can take? Simple and clear, focused on results and leads to accountability, measurable, actionable, lends itself to developing a clear strategy for making the vision possible, leads to hard choices, and worth fighting for. So that was our call to action for our vision statement. And so in our vision statement, there are 3 sections. And so if you're following along with the draft, I believe this is on page 4 in the draft document. It's set up in 3 sections. So the first one is our ultimate vision for student success. If we are successful, what would this look like for students? The second section sets up how the identified key priorities support achieving that vision. And then the last section invites shareholders into the plan by explaining how they work towards mathematics achievement. And so what I'd like for us to look at today, so on the next slide, we have sort of that first section. So in the red box, it doesn't appear that way in the print, but for us to consider today, what would success in mathematics achievement look like for students? So for this example, we have that the CMA envisions a Kentucky where all students can competently and flexibly use mathematical ideas to think critically and solve problems throughout their lives. Does this match with what we see and envision for students? Are there ideas that you would like to see sort of crafted into this vision for student achievement? And don't want to cut anybody off if they do want to share, but it is pretty quiet. So is there anybody on the subcommittee that wants to add anything to the vision or discussion around the vision statement there? No. Well, we do.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just saying, I really feel like when I think about all the things that we talked about on the subcommittee, that encompasses it, what we did. And I think that's a good vision statement.
The only thing I wonder is the idea of joy or success in mathematics. So don't we want kids like envision a Kentucky where all students reach success or find joy, or, I mean, this is fine. It is a good statement, but I didn't know if you wanted to think something about that idea of joy or seeing the math that's everywhere. I mean, math is everywhere. It's on their ceiling, it's in art pieces. So I don't know if that comes in here.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Kim. I think the first bullet, empowering students to innovation and realize their mathematical potential, kind of gets to that, but you're saying is more than that, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like not just seeing or using, everything is towards using it, but it's just dispositionally owning the mathematics and being able to, I think, just enjoy the process, right? And that doesn't come strong. So I don't know how to incorporate, but yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion.
I mean, I read an article recently where they started with tessellations and got kids so excited about the beauty of that. And then they started studying the geometry from that, and the kids were more willing and saw the applications of the geometry to the tessellations, where before, if they would have started with the geometry and the angles and all of that, and then ended with a project, it may not have had the same impact. So I'm just thinking about that joy. And if we want students to have joy, they're sharing a variety of strategies. That brings them success and joy. I mean, there's, so I agree with you though. The bullet number 1 could encompass it. I agree.
But not exactly, yeah. I think we need to have that explicit.
Yeah, so I think seeing mathematics in the world around them, seeing how, in the visuals, and also seeing it as a creative process and not just rote memorization or facts, but as this language that helps them understand the world around them and interact with their environment.
Crystal, in that red box, would it be possible to maybe add to the statement to where students develop an appreciation for the mathematics around them while competently and flexibly using mathematical ideas?
Like that. I think that sounds like a good start.
Because if you don't include that, to me, it doesn't send the message of what we're thinking about instructionally. And when you think about a high quality instructional resource, they're starting with that anchor, that joy, that something to get them engaged that is a real world connection piece.
I think it goes like a little bit deeper than authenticity. So, often we look for those tasks that relate to the students' like real world experience, but things that sort of are the catalyst for them seeing it beyond just that one type of situation.
I also think that connects with so many districts' grad profiles that they are also either already implementing or working on implementing. I think that's a great connection to that work as well.
That's an excellent point. And I know at the Council for Post-Secondary Education, they have their 10 essential skills that align. We're working on how those align with our Portrait of a Learner example at KDE as well. But they have a skill around reasoning quantitatively, and we can look at that as well. The next piece of the vision statement really invites shareholders into the plan by sort of describing how these shareholders support mathematics achievement. And so this is an area that we really wanted to invite feedback on from the CMA, knowing that many of you on here fall in multiple of these roles. So any discussion or feedback on how you would describe these shareholder groups engaging with mathematics achievement to support student success?
The only other thing I'm thinking of that we might want to add is this is P20. So should we, we've got our adult education centers, our college and universities, so we've got that end of it, but like our preschools and different, I don't even know the word I'm thinking, but like those types of things, should we add that in there?
So like preschools and early learning providers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a question about, oh, sorry. I had a question about students with special needs. Have we explicitly addressed that in our stakeholders? I know we talk about tier 2 and 3, but do we need to be a little more explicit there with students that have IEPs?
I think there's a bit of a nod to that under teachers who support students' access to tier 1 content through tier 2 and tier 3 or multilingual support, without coming out and saying necessarily that tier 3 instruction is due to a student having an IEP. But when we think about tier 3 supports, those could be supplemental or also students who receive specialized instruction.
I have a question, I know this is not how we define these partners, but we talk about the teachers when we say who deliver the instruction. I feel like the teacher is the coordinator or designer of the instruction in addition to delivers. I feel like that's kind of limiting to how we see the teacher. Again, thinking about the purpose of this. Are we limiting to this, or do we want to include the designing process as well? The second question I have is the curriculum, especially high quality instructional materials, is a big part of it. And I know the curriculum is more like profit organizations, but do we want to include this curriculum designers or all that kind of stuff as part of the stakeholders?
I think there is something that could be added with the teachers, because even if they're using like a specific resource, they're preparing to deliver that for the students within their classroom. And so that intellectual preparation would come into play as well.
I agree 100%. I do see teachers as instructional designers, not just delivering something from a curriculum. So I love that point. I hadn't thought about that, but I love that point.
Any other thoughts on shareholders? As Chris shared, at the end of our meeting, you'll have a survey. And so the questions we've talked about tonight, you'll have space that you can go back if you want to look at the plan a little more closely and provide more detailed feedback. You'll have space to be able to do that within the survey.
So I'm wondering, Crystal, on the school and district administrators, to just say they who help facilitate the vision, they really help lead that vision for mathematics, or they're the gatekeepers really of that vision for mathematics. I'm just wondering if there could be stronger language who help facilitate the vision. Because building level administrators can shut down a vision pretty quick. So they really have to support it. And I'll think about that one for the feedback stuff.
Yes, please.
Because it's more at the school and district level about leading a high quality math program from the school and district level that ensures all teachers have the necessary tools. That way it gets to the policies, the informal and formal policies that they talk about that can derail implementation of an HQIR. It gets at all those pieces. It gets at the professional learning that they have to oversee and understand. They have to understand the journey of an HQIR implementation is 3 to 5 years. So it gets at all that programmatic stuff that I'd have to have my hands wrapped around as a building level leader if I want this to happen with my staff. And then as a district level leader, if I want to support the building level leaders and their staff in getting there. So just something to think about for that.
Um, a challenge with that, though, would be the collaboration that's intended in this document. We've seen, you get a lot of mileage when you get people collaborating on building a vision within a district. And you're certainly not wrong about the power that they have when they're talking about the vision within the district or within the school. But I think one of the things I think we want to lean into is that we want this as a collaborative effort of people buying into a vision, a common vision across all these multiple stakeholders. A word that we've used in similar circumstances could be cultivate, that they are responsible for cultivating that and cultivating that collaboration across stakeholders to build a vision, and then making sure that vision comes to be.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, I look forward to reading feedback from the surveys that go out. Definitely things that we want to think about. We were really challenged as a subcommittee to think about really deep ideas, very complex ideas, but also the challenge of wanting to ensure that we communicate those in a way that is concise and that really encourages and empowers people to collaborate, as Anthony was saying, like bringing into the space a willingness to work together, combine all of our forces in this direction to improve outcomes for students. And so look forward to seeing that feedback and working this into a draft 2.0 for the committee to take a look at in the future as well.
Okay, so if anybody doesn't have anything else, I think our next CMA meeting is in January, and I think we hope to have that draft finalized, maybe there for you to look at and maybe vote on, possibly. So, and again, I just want to again thank this subcommittee for all the work that was put into it. It was a lot of work, but it was very rewarding for me. So I was glad that I got to be a part of that. But if anybody doesn't have anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Jason Taylor, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Maybe Marie Miller, second.
All right. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all in January.